What's up, YouTube? This is Mathos97 and welcome to episode number 16 of my SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 General Manager Mode. We're here for the July 12th edition of Friday Night SmackDown here in Grenoble, France. And it's the hometown of our newest superstar, Andre the Giant. So, in the main event, Andre the Giant will be going one-on-one with the world's largest athlete, The Big Show. That is a clash between colossal titans in our main event here for this episode. But before we get to that, well, last week we saw Triple H take on Andre the Giant one-on-one. Well, tonight, Triple H is going to be ringside to see Bret Hart go one-on-one with the British Bulldog, the other new acquisition to the SmackDown roster as of late. And British Bulldog, he was actually upset by Chris Masters last week in his debut, so Bulldog, he's going to be a little bit frustrated coming off of that loss. Bret Hart's, well, he's still looking to perhaps face Triple H at the Great American Bash for the World Heavyweight Championship. And we saw last week Andre defeated Triple H. So Andre the Giant, he's practically earned himself the right to face Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's basically the #1 contender. But we've had this rivalry building between Bret Hart and Triple H for the past several weeks, and I don't really want that to go to waste. So Bret Hart, if he can defeat the British Bulldog here tonight, he will also be in the World Heavyweight Championship matchup. So we could perhaps see a triple threat between Bret Hart, Triple H, and Andre the Giant. And that would be the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship at the Great American Bash. We also know that Eddie Guerrero and Batista are teaming up to take on Kane and the Big Show for the WWE Tag Team titles at the pay-per-view, after Eddie and Batista defeated the Big Show and Kane in tag team competition a few weeks ago. So they earned the right to be the #1 contenders. We're going to see Edge defend the United States Championship against Kurt Angle, since we did see Kurt Angle defeat Edge a few weeks ago in singles competition. And as well, the Cruiserweight title will be on the line, so there's going to be a lot going on at the Bash. We're going to have to wait and see what other matches are going to be added to the card. Probably, this probably is going to be that one sort of jobber matchup that, we saw that at the last pay-per-view. And it's probably going to be that way for a little while until we actually build our roster up to, the popularity I want it to be at. For now, I think we're starting to get guys, less superstars in the 50s and start to push them up into the 60s, that sort of area. And I mean, with all the superstars that are on the free agency, they're all basically down in the 30s in popularity by this point. So we can just kind of alternate between those guys. Don't really have to sign the contracts for them, extend their contracts to keep them on the show, because they really are interchangeable at this point. And that way we'll be able to kind of save some money perhaps towards some of our bigger superstars. And that's the thing with popularity. It's a double-edged sword. You get better ratings, which means more fans and more money, but at the same time, you have to pay your superstars more. The more popular they get, the more money they'll want for their contracts, which then, then the budget starts to run a little tight. And that tends to happen with GM mode, especially in the ones I play through. It always seems like I'm kind of low on budget. I never build up, like 3 million, 4 million in funds. I mean, if you can make that happen, then good for you, I guess. But that's not really something I've ever been very good at, is handling, I guess, the budget for these. Excuse me. I don't know what's up with my throat at the moment. But, building up a good, consistent budget. I mean, I'm normally at the lower end of things. Maybe I'll build up like $1 million or so. Like not even 2 million, but just like maybe $1 million plus in funds. But normally I'm somewhere in between, like under 2 million to like above 500,000. I'm normally in that range in terms of the budget, which, I mean, you can stay afloat that way, and that's because I normally have like a full roster of 20, and trying to build them up, build up their popularity so they end up earning more money. So, I mean, that is a lot to try to keep up those contracts. Some people may prefer to stick with a roster of, say, 17, 18 guys, and that way they can build up more money, and then perhaps try to make the roster bigger, or maybe they just stick with, you know, that sort of set number. I'm not sure. Not sure exactly how different people run, what their strategies are for GM mode. But hey, if you wanted to see, you know, that's what makes each playthrough. Excuse me, I have no idea what's going on right now. But, you know, that's what makes the playthrough unique. You know, people have different styles of playing the game, playing the mode, trying to, you know, different strategies of how to make it to the top, how to succeed. And I guess, you know, sometimes, you know, some people also may prefer to try to go with more of, you know, try to have more stipulation matches, which so far, I haven't done too many stipulations, but it's been working. I mean, I've got the rivalries to kind of back it up, so, you know, GM mode, sometimes it's not the most entertaining series in terms of, like, gameplay or that sort of thing. That's more of what Universe is for, but this is more of a kind of strategy, you know, that's the thing. GM mode, looking back on it, it's not really something, like, you don't watch it, you don't play it for, like, the gameplay aspect. It's more for, like, the booking, just, you know, running this show. That's what makes GM mode unique. That's what always kind of interested me. I was never really, you know, I like to control sort of the whole organization. I'm not a big fan, you know, whether it's like a sports game or, you know, the wrestling video games. I don't really, not a huge fan of just doing like a career mode where you're just controlling one guy. I prefer to kind of run the whole corporation, which is what GM mode's good for. It works for me. As we can see now, Bret Hart with a sharpshooter applied here on Bulldog, but he refuses to tap out. And yeah, you know, that's what makes GM mode unique, though. You know, you get the opportunity to run your own company, or run your own show, not necessarily the entire company. But we did have to skip ahead a little bit more in this matchup because it did run a little long. That's what I'm realizing in this game, is that the matches tend to run pretty long, but 2 count. That is it, folks. Bret Hart defeating the British Bulldog in our opening matchup. But the matches, you know, the gameplay's not, it's not that great, but then again, that's not why I'm playing this game. It's not for the gameplay, it's just GM mode, man. I really have fun playing this mode. And, you know, I did have a break after 2008 from playing GM mode. There was a little bit of a, you know, because I've been running for the past little while, past several months, I've been running just career mode and universe mode. And that's, I don't know, it feels like there's kind of a gap in the channel at the moment for me. Because it's like, last year around this time, I was running like 3 or 4 series, because I had GM mode. I was just about finishing up my WWE 13 universe mode, the whole created wrestler universe mode, because this was about the time when I finished that off. Then I had GM mode, and then I had universe mode. So that was 4 series running at the time. But now, I mean, just kind of lost interest in the Pokemon series. Never really had, like, I was planning to do the created wrestler universe mode this year, and then 2K15 happened. So that, I never really have been able to replace that WWE 13 sort of gap that was there. And then I had GM mode, which was, you know, one of the main staples of the channel between that and universe mode. It's kind of what I made my name on, made myself known for. How I kind of developed the fan base I have at the moment. And then career mode came along, so I had that, which kind of just filled in the gap of GM mode, just for the time. Because I didn't really want to run 3 series, I wanted to give it a little bit of time before I did another GM mode series. And now we're back here, career mode's done, we've got GM mode going, and then I've got universe mode. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of feels like something's missing. But then at the same time, if I am running 3 series on the channel, the pacing for each individual series is a bit slow. That's what kind of slowed down 2K14 universe mode, is because I was running 4 different series for a solid several months. It had to have been at least 2 or 3 months. So I wasn't really able to make as much progress, whereas now, 2K15 universe mode is like a month, almost like a month and a half ahead of schedule in comparison to 2K14. which is just because I'm only running 2 series at a time, and a lot more focus is being put towards Universe mode. Because, I mean, GM mode, it's maybe like a once-a-week thing, whereas Universe mode is more like 2-3 times a week. It just depends on what videos I have available to me. And same was with career mode. It was kind of balanced with career mode. It was a bit more predominantly career mode, but that was basically just because I wanted... The career mode videos were pretty easy to produce, because once I developed my formula for that, the video lengths tend to be a bit shorter, so which is how I was able to kind of breeze through that a bit quicker than I was Universe at the time. And also, I just really wanted to get that out of the way, because career mode was a bit lackluster this year, but it was a good foundation, which is what 2K15 was. I've said this in videos that 2K15 was a good foundation for future games, which is why I'm interested to see how 2K16 progresses in the series. I mean, the hype for 2K15 was a lot higher than it probably should have been. I should have realized, you know, heading into it, it's a new console, of course, there's going to be limitations. But, you know, that's why I'm just kind of... I feel like my expectations for 2K16 are going to be a bit more like they were... 2K14 I wasn't expecting a whole lot, just because it was like, oh, it's the same console, so... We're all just kind of getting prepped for the big PS4, Xbox One, PC, I guess, release of the game. So it's like, oh, things are really going to be changing this year. There's not going to be anything drastic to really change the face of WWE games. But it ended up being a really good game, and it kind of shattered any expectations I had for it. Whereas this year, the bar was set way too high, and so it just completely fell flat. So this year, I feel like my expectations for the game are going to be pretty low. You know, I like to think of myself, I'm a bit realistic in terms of what I expect in the game. And, you know, I just feel like, I'm going to have lower expectations, and I think the game is going to do a little bit better than I'm anticipating, which is what I hope happens. Maybe that's why sometimes with certain things I set... You know, part of it being kind of like a realistic mindset, but I try to... I don't know. It's not like I try to do it. I just sort of... My expectations are normally a little lower than they really need to be. So it just... I don't know. It makes things look a bit more... I don't know. I consider myself an optimist, but maybe that's just because I have lower expectations than other people. I don't know. As we see right now, Andre the Giant... This finish is... I don't know how to describe that. I mean, when would you ever see someone like Andre the Giant or Big Show or Kane or Yokozuna, you know, Undertaker, any of the bigger superstars that WWE seems to love, when would you see them use a roll-up? Well, we saw it right there, folks. There we go. Okay, so we take a look at the ratings for this week. Monday Night Raw gets a 2.5 star with a freaking Hell in the Cell main event. Clearly, Monday Night Raw has no sense of build-up whatsoever. I haven't even touched Hell in the Cell yet, and they're just like, hey, we'll give it out on Raw. They're desperate. They're really desperate at this point. So we got a 3-star show with a 4-star main event with no stipulation attached. That's how you build up. I don't know. That's how you build up matches, but I feel like this... Compared to 08, this game almost seems like it's on easy mode. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, I feel like there should be more of a challenge this year. Maybe the pacing just for the original game was a little bit different. Whereas, you know, in 08, you really start. You're almost always at the bottom. It seems like no matter what you do, you're at the bottom. Maybe it's just that the ratings aren't as broken this year. Or maybe they're broken the opposite direction. I don't know. I'm curious to see when I do eventually move on to 07, since it's kind of the middle game, see perhaps if it'll be a bit more difficult, but not quite as difficult as 08. Maybe it's just because there's 3 brands. I'm not sure, but this episode was a bit more of a ramble sort of thing, but I feel like I haven't done one of these sort of videos in a while, where I just sort of talked and not really discuss the gameplay. I don't know. I feel like it was a good sort of, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I hope you did as well. Thank you for watching, and until the next episode, keep on YouTubing.